Today's episode was awesome. I had Tiffany and Josh High on, and they talked about how they're doing 15 to 20 real estate deals per month in Columbus. They've even had months where they're making $350,000, $400,000, but it wasn't always like that. They share the story about how they were actually, breaking even, making a ton of money because they had such high overhead with employees and marketing and other things. So they talk about how they restructured their business to become insanely profitable in actually less than 2 years. They had to fire everybody to get to where they're at today just 2 years later. So it's really cool. We also talk a lot about social media, how they're using that. We actually get into faith and what it's like with balancing faith, family, and business. So if you're struggling with that, you definitely want to wait till the end because we have an amazing conversation about that. So with all that being said, let's jump into the episode. Are you looking to grow your real estate investing business? My company, Future Flipper, can help. We've taught hundreds of people all over the country how to flip, wholesale, and buy rental properties. And it doesn't matter where you're at in your investing journey. Whether you're trying to get your first deal or scale your company, Future Flipper can help. We have courses, coaching, and events for all levels of investors. So if you want to take the next step, go to futureflipper.com and book a free consultation to see how we can best help you. Once again, that's futureflipper.com. If you've ever wanted to invest with me on my real estate deals, it's now possible. At Pineda Capital, we're purchasing value-add real estate all across the country. This includes multifamily, commercial, and land development. The best part is, with my network, social media presence, and marketing strategies, we're able to get the very best deals that others don't have access to. You can join in with me on those deals if you're an accredited investor. If you want to learn more, head over to pinedacapital.com to see our current opportunities. Once again, that's pinedacapital.com. Welcome to the Ryan Pineda Show, where our mission is to invest.
I only expect to make money in things that I understand.
Innovate.
It's about believing in the future and thinking that the future will be better than the past.
And inspire. I am much more likely to hit my goal just due to putting it out there.
You're now rocking with the best.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Ryan Pineda Show. Today, I have some very special guests, and I know I say this every episode, but they are special because I was just hanging out with Tiffany last week out in Austin, Texas, and she was telling me about a lot of the cool things that they're doing out in Columbus, Ohio, with flipping, wholesaling, and sales training, and I really resonated with it because they hold their employees and their team extremely accountable with KPIs and other metrics. So I'm really excited to pick your guys' brain and also learn about Josh, who's kind of like this mysterious figure in the company. Like, all I ever see is Tiffany on social media. And, I was talking to Josh. I'm like, what do you even do, dude? And so I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah, thanks for having us on the show, Ryan.
Yeah,
really
thanks,
appreciate
Ryan.
it. Yeah.
I'm super excited. I've been following you for a while, and your growth is amazing.
Appreciate that. So why don't you guys just give us the quick rundown of like who you guys are and, where you're at today?
So Tiffany here out of Columbus, and so we started rehabbing and wholesaling about 4 years ago. I was in the corporate space for about 12 years, and long story short, my younger brother got diagnosed with cancer, and I left my corporate career, ended up taking another corporate job for some reason, and never saw him because I was traveling Monday through Friday on a plane. And I just started realizing I needed more freedom of my time. And it wasn't necessarily just freedom of my time, but control over when I work and when I don't. So I ended up leaving my corporate role, met Josh in Toledo back in
2016.
Yep. And I ended up leaving my corporate job on a Good Friday of that year. And I didn't even know what flipping houses was, but I was a private lender for someone that was flipping houses. So I ended up leaving my job. I ended up visiting a house, and he walked me through how he was making money on it. And I was just standing there thinking, wait, you're making $80,000 on this thing? I can do this too. So long story short, I ended up getting educated, and about 6 months later, did our first rehab and did about 40 rehabs our first year, and it's been history ever since. So we've done hundreds of rehabs since then.
That's awesome. Isn't it funny how, and it's like never any disrespect to that person, but you're like, you're doing this for $80,000? Like, oh man, I'm going to kill it then.
Yeah.
I honestly think that sometimes with going into anything, because when I got into YouTube and stuff, I saw what these guys are making. I was like, this guy's making that much money doing, like, I'm getting in this.
Yeah, I was actually just telling Josh yesterday, I was looking at a 5-year-old star on YouTube, and he's making like $20 million this year.
Oh, was it Ryan's World?
I don't remember his name, but someone was showing me, and then it really opened my eyes. So.
Yeah, so like Ryan Opens Toys. I forgot what his
that one.
So he that was his old name. Now he's Ryan's World since he's older now. You know, he started out when he was 5. He's like 9 now. But you know, he's pulling in like a cool $30 million a year.
Must be nice.
Yeah,
Right.
opening toys. So it's pretty cool. So Josh, tell me about your start, man.
Yeah, so luckily, you know, Tiff and I were together, kind of going through that experience. We both had a cancer experience in our families, which I think grew us tighter at that point in time. And then when she ended up leaving her role, I'll never forget that she called me on Good Friday and she goes, I just put in my 2-week notice, and they ended up walking me out. I'm like, wait, you did what? You're just quitting, you're leaving. She's like, yep, I'm out. I'm figuring this out, right? So that's one thing that's unique about Tiffany is she's got this superpower. She just figures things out, and she just, you know, takes action, gets after it. So anyways, here we are, you know, learning by failing for 6 months, not getting anything, right? To the point where we almost stopped, right? We took 6 months handwriting letters, sending letters out, to the point where we were like, man, are we ever going to get this deal? Finally, we got our first deal, and that's when everything just kind of exploded. And that's, you know, from there, like Tiff said, it was history ever since. And just a little bit of background about me, my degree is in civil engineering. And you never hear engineering and sales or sales management in the same sentence ever, right? So the fact that I've been able to learn and study and acquire these skills is just a testament to it doesn't matter what skill set you're looking to become a master in, right? All it is, it's the same fundamental, no different than you in baseball, right? If you practice the fundamentals every single day, then you're going to get really good at it. If you really study the game or study sales, you're going to get really good at it over time. So that's what I've been able to do, and it's led us to where we are today. So
That's awesome. Yeah, you know, it's funny you say that because, like, you know, when I think of a civil engineer, it's always like, okay, this guy's like a nerdy kind of guy working on numbers and calculations and all this stuff. And I wouldn't imagine that person would be good at sales, like you said.
Right.
And I've actually had this debate in my head of like, man, can anyone be good at sales? What do you guys think?
I think anyone can, yeah. I mean, you got to be committed to becoming great, right? And I think that's the key. Too many people go out there and they think that they'll just show up, and if they show up, and they'll get it done, right? But that's not the reality of anything that you do in life, right?
No, I mean, there are people who are naturals and, you know, they don't even know what they're doing, but they're just good at it. And the majority of people got to learn the techniques and the training and all that stuff for sure. I remember it was funny. I did probably my first, I would say, 150 deals with no sales training or anything. Like, I just did them, just natural talent at negotiating and figuring things out. And I remember I went to see my friend John Martinez, his first time, because I kept hearing people in the real estate industry talk about this guy. They're like, yeah, everyone sends their sales guys to John Martinez. I'm like, for what? And so I got on a phone call with John, and I'm like, so what do you do? Like, do you teach people how to get leads? Like, honestly, I didn't even know sales was a thing. It was just like, you close deals. Like, I don't understand what we're talking about here. And he's like, well, you know, I help your sales team get better at sales and close deals and this or that. And I'm like, I don't get it. It just didn't like click with me that sales needed training. I was like, people can close or they can't. Like, it's as simple as that. Mm-hmm. But I remember I went to his event, and it was like mind blowing to see like the things I had been doing actually explained. Because I didn't understand what I was doing, but I was using a lot of these techniques that he was actually teaching. Mm-hmm. And then in turn, my guys understood it because I couldn't properly convey it. I was like, just do it. But he explained it well, and then I understood the importance of it, and we hired multiple guys after that. You know, my friend Steve Trang, we have his training. We have, you know, I've read the books now, like Never Split the Difference and Emotional Intelligence and all these things. I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, there are things you got to learn. What would you say, like, are some things that you could say?
Key is going to be just one, being able to have a conversation, right? That's very, very important, and being able to relate to people. I think that's kind of a cliche for sales. But if you can narrow it down to a few fundamentals, in whatever that process is for you, right? So we have a 6-step process, and we identify a few fundamentals that are very, very important. right? And then we hone in on those fundamentals and practice them every day. So for example, uncovering motivation for a motivated seller is a very, very important thing. You have to be really good at that, right? If you ask someone, why do you want to sell your property? And they tell you that they want to downsize, and you just continue on with the conversation. Well, let's be real. Downsizing alone is not enough motivation for someone to want to sell a property at a steep discount to you as an investor, right? So getting really good at diving into that situation and getting past that surface level stuff is what's really important. So what we've been able to do is we've been able to put ourselves in these situations, like physically role playing back and forth on a daily basis, to get really good at asking certain types of questions to get past that surface level stuff. So if you're able to identify certain things in whatever process that is, so the key is having a process and then identifying what are those fundamental or foundational steps that you can then build upon and practice every single day.
Yeah, no, it's great that you created the 6 steps. I mean, for me, when I look at that question you said, like, hey, why, you want to downsize? Great. Like, a lot of people would do that. But me, naturally, I'm like, why do you want to downsize? Is it because, this monthly payment is too much? You can't afford it anymore? Did someone die? Is you just truly you're getting older, you want a single story home now? Like, what's the reason you want to down? And because there could be some really true motivation, you just have to know.
Right. And unfortunately, a lot of people who are new to especially this type of sales, they're like, oh, you want to downsize? Cool, that makes sense. You probably want a smaller place, right? But the reality is...
Never assume in sales.
Exactly. And a lot of people do that, though, naturally.
Right.
So they hear downsize, okay, yeah, you want a smaller place, and they move on. And they're totally missing the boat, right? So...
Right. No, I love that. So, you guys, tell me what the operation looks like today. Who's handling what, how many deals you guys doing, all that stuff.
So we do around anywhere from 15 to 20 deals a month. We rehab probably 70% of those now. We have a team of 5 salespeople. Is that right? 5?
Yeah, I just hired the 5th one. So
Yep.
yeah.
We have a personal assistant, an operations coordinator, me, Josh, and I built a VA company in Pakistan, both for ourselves and for our education arm. And we probably have over 100 VAs out there. They're not all working directly for me, but
yeah.
So that's been a big endeavor that we've done over the last year.
Why Pakistan? I look at VAs and, the majority of ones I see are Philippines, and then, you got the Mexico ones, and obviously there's a ton of VAs in India, but Pakistan's pretty rare.
So it just happened to be the person I was connected with a couple years ago. He had a small company at the time of about 5 VAs, and he was a developer by trade and way smarter than me. And we just ended up working really well together. And then I had launched my education arm of the business, and I thought, why don't I supply turnkey VAs to my students? Because I think that a couple of things in the industry that I see hold people back is they think that getting leads is always the best answer to more deals, but I think there's 2 foundations that they're missing, and one is just having the right systems and tools ready for when you hire people, and if you don't have that ready, you're more than likely going to experience turnover. So, for example, 2 years ago, I still had my team, one-click dialing on CallRail. Well, that was a waste of time for them to just be, pressing numbers versus being on a dialer system within my CRM. So anyways, we had really good salespeople that were producing, 80 to 100 grand a month, and then they would end up leaving because they were frustrated over things like, say Josh was on the sales floor and he heard him across the room and had, maybe a bad conversation, and Josh would be like, hey, I think you could have said this better. And the sales rep would say, well, you didn't even hear the conversation, so don't give me feedback unless you hear the other end. And so we realized we're not putting the right tools in place to be able to lead them, train them, and let them be the most successful they can. So I ended up putting together an entire new system base about 1.5 to 2 years ago with this company. We built it together, and then I decided, well, why don't I just turnkey this so whenever students hire you guys, you already know exactly what to do, and they don't have to recreate the wheel.
Right. That's awesome.
So it's gone really well that way.
Yeah, I would say, whenever we tell our students, like, go hire VAs, right, we're always like, hey, there's two ways to do this. You can either buy the turnkey one and, hopefully the company you hire is actually training them and doing that well, but you're going to pay 3 times as much. Or you can hire one on Upwork or Facebook group or whatever, and it's going to be a lot of training by you. And you just have to pick which one, based on your budget, you're willing to do.
Yeah, and you'd asked me about Pakistan. I mean, it was just a connection, but one thing that I've seen over my Pakistan VAs versus maybe the Philippines, and they're, at least the people in the company that work for us, they're very religious, and you typically see like a super strong work ethic with that. So I think they're overall like a more religious culture is what I've seen. I don't know if that makes sense, but so I think they work really hard. I mean, they've been hit really hard with COVID. So it's actually been to our betterment because a lot of big companies in the U.S. have shut down their operation overseas. And so we've gotten a lot of talent pulled from it.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I'll tell you, we use majority Filipinos. And if you talk to anybody, they'll always tell you like, yeah, Filipinos are like the worst, ones to use. I'm like, man, those are my people, We just got to use them anyway. We got to just gut it out with my people.
Yeah, it was just more of a contact for me. It doesn't matter what background it was. So
yeah, no, that's cool. So, I mean, you guys are doing 15, 20 deals a month, crushing it. You got 5 sales people. I mean, the company itself for doing that many deals does not sound like this huge amount of people. I mean, there's a lot of VAs, but as far as like in the office, what do you have? Like 7, 8, 9 people?
Right.
Yeah, we'll probably do around 350 to 400,000 in revenue this month.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's been a crazy year for rehabs, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing about 60% or more. It flows between 60 and 67% on net profit margins.
It's crazy. And we're seeing the same thing with our rehabs. It's like these things we thought we were going to make 20 on are making 40 to 50. If you buy a lot of those, oh my gosh, like the revenue can stack really quick. So now's the time to flip. I keep telling people that all the time. Like one of the biggest things at Future Flipper we always say is like have multiple exit strategies, right? Like we don't want to be one-trick ponies. And I think a lot of people are one-trick ponies. They only wholesale. They only do this. And then they leave so much revenue on the table. And I saw that last year during COVID because nobody wanted to buy, in April, May. I'm like, I'll buy them. Just give them to me like, 60 cents on the dollar and I'll buy them.
Yep.
And I was the only one who would buy them. And thankfully I did because I made a killing doing it. But all the other wholesalers I knew just couldn't make a spread because the end buyers didn't want them. Like, what did you guys see last year? Like,
oh, we didn't stop buying over COVID. Actually, buyers were so scared to buy that we ended up buying a lot of houses just off the MLS because of it.
Right.
Which you normally can't do.
Right. It was not normal for us at all. But I think one key you brought up is having multiple exit strategies.
Right.
That's so important because a few years ago, all we did was wholesale. We did a lot of deals, but I mean, our average deal size was like $8,000 or $9,000 in our market, which was very, very slim. And we had a huge team to do that kind of volume.
Yeah.
And then what we've been able to do is we were able to scale back our team size. To your point, you brought that up, how we're doing, a lot of revenue with a smaller team because we are maximizing every single opportunity that comes across our desk. And I think that's the critical piece.
Yeah. So when I look at you guys and just from talking to both of you, I mean, you guys are operations assassins. That's what I would classify you guys as. Where does that come from? I mean, my guess is corporate world versus, us as wholesalers and flippers. We're hustlers.
Yep.
Most wholesalers and flippers I know have never worked a real structured job. They can't even hold a job if they tried.
Yeah, I would say it comes from my corporate experience. I led a multi-million-dollar division, and everything had to always be processed out. You needed to make sure every role was processed out in your company. So if someone left, you weren't, running around with pulling your hair out like I hear most of my students doing.
Right.
But I would say the first couple of years, I mean, we were hustlers. We started in the basement.
Everyone starts that way.
Yeah.
I'm no different. My first 4 years, I didn't even keep books or anything. I'm like, I think I made a lot of money. Let me know.
Yeah, same here. We had some same challenges. But what really turned for us was a couple years ago, we had built a sales team to up about 10 or 11 people. And we were doing, just crazy leads a day, crazy volume, but we weren't netting very much. And we're like, what the hell's going on? And plus our life was miserable. Coming in, we didn't have core values. We were just trying to run 100 miles an hour without putting an infrastructure in place.
Right.
And I'll never forget, on a Sunday, I called Mark Evans. We're good friends. And I was bawling. I was pacing up and down my street. And I'm like, Mark, I'm going to give up. Like, I'm doing hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue and I'm making crap.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what? You can still do this. Just go in tomorrow and let go of most of your people and start over.
Yeah.
And I did that. We walked in on Monday. We called everyone off. And we literally one by one just let people go.
Dang.
And we just...
What year was this?
This was
2 years ago at least now.
So this
A little more.
is
It was
recent.
2019.
Yeah, this is really recent. Wow.
And we rebuilt everything, our entire CRM, our phone systems, our core values. And then we started slowly growing from there to where we're at today. And I'm so glad I didn't give up.
I wouldn't say it was slowly, but that's crazy, you know.
It felt slow.
It felt slow.
I'm sure it felt agonizing. For
Yeah,
sure.
it was for a few months.
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely insane. You know, I'm gonna have to get Mark on the show. I've talked to him a couple of times. He's a beast. He's a beast for sure. But what would you say? Like, I mean, obviously, you looked at it to the outside world. Maybe you were being successful because you had all these deals and all this, and then like you're like, okay, but where's the money? You know, we're not making money. And like, what was it like going through that? Just I don't know, like dealing with having to hit like such a high monthly nut just to cover the nut. And, you know, it's like not even where you want to be.
It's scary. It was, I mean, because our expenses, and we were spending over $100,000 a month just in marketing.
It's crazy.
We don't even spend a fraction of that now. But, I mean, and, you know, I have a big following. So imagine just walking up to your following one day and just being like, I failed. Like,
Yeah.
it already hurts enough to do it, you know, when you look at yourself in the mirror, but then you have all these people looking up to you. And it is what it is. I think that every big entrepreneur goes through a phase. And honestly, if they aren't failing, they aren't trying hard enough. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it was embarrassing internally. It was just a lot of like anger came out of it. But it only lasts, you know, those types of feelings only lasted for a short while. And I think that really what pulled us out of it was people like Mark in our life and some of our mentors that keep our mindset right. And I always tell people, like, you're only going to be as successful as healthy as your mind is. So each year since, we hire a mentor just for our mindset. So like, yeah, we have mentors for real estate and like all these, you know, content driven mentors, but now I just need to keep my mind healthy, and from there I can accomplish anything. So.
Yeah.
And with that, coupled with some key lessons that we took away from those moments too, you know, we took a step back, and as anyone should do in moments like those, is what went wrong, right? What do we need to fix? What needs to change in order for us to not run into this situation again? And really the question was, Tiff took a step back, being the systems person she is, and said, you know, how can I cut my overhead by a third but have 3 times the revenue, right? So when we start asking questions like that, then all of a sudden your answers start to change, and you can start to figure out solutions to what the problem was. So some of the systems that we teach other people now is what came from that exact experience, right? And then also diving back into the fundamental steps with the sales stuff too, right? I mean, we weren't training sales on a daily basis then, right? So I looked at it also from my athletic days. You know, I had to go to the gym every day and bench press if I wanted to bench press 300 plus pounds, right?
Right.
I don't just show up to the gym and bench press 300 pounds. So getting back to some of those fundamentals is really where we had a lot of those breakthroughs.
Yeah, dude. What did you play? You look like a linebacker.
Hit the nail on the head. Yeah.
Here we go.
Best position, right? So.
I would not want to get hit by you. I do want to ask you guys, you know, how you were able to cut the sales team in half and also cut marketing to a fraction, and what that looks like. But before that, let's hear a quick word from our sponsor. Have you ever wanted to invest in real estate, but you didn't have the time to find deals yourself? That's where Fundrise comes in. Fundrise is a crowdfunding platform that has transacted over $5 billion in real estate and has over 150,000 active investors. While many funds, like my own, require accredited investors, Fundrise allows anyone to invest with as little as $500. If you'd like to learn more, check out fundrise.com. Once again, that's fundrise.com. We all know that I love creating passive income through rental properties, but did you know that you can create passive income through owning an e-commerce store? My company, Lunar Ecom, can build and manage a store for you on Amazon or Walmart. We'll handle everything from starting the store, picking the products, and all the day-to-day operations. It's completely passive for you. If you'd like to learn how store owners are making thousands a month in passive income, head over and watch the case study at lunarecom.com. It will explain everything you need to know about the industry and why I'm so excited about it. So to see the case study, head over to lunarecom.com. All right, so let's dive into the marketing. Like, what are you guys doing now? You used to spend $100K a month. What are you spending now? What's it on?
So we do SMS, RVM, cold calling, Facebook ads, and we're getting ready to launch PPC to a greater scale here coming up.
Okay.
But really what was happening previously when we had that big team was we were producing like 30 to 40 leads a day per person. So if you do the
they
math,
just couldn't even work them all.
well, that and like,
Overwhelmed, yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people out there can relate to this if you're building a team. But back then when we weren't training our sales team the way we do today, they would come into work and they would blame the leads for why they're not performing. So I would take a look in the mirror and think, oh, maybe I'm not providing enough leads. So I just keep pumping them out, spending all this money. And in reality, I should only be providing, maybe 10 to 15 new leads a day and focusing on follow-up. And it all was a result because our sales team wasn't being trained the right way. So now, what our day looks like on the sales team is completely different than what it was then. So I can produce, an eighth of the marketing spend, get 3 times the amount of profit. And then back then we also had phone systems where each person was maybe dialing like 60 to 7 dials a day. And now each person is doing hundreds of dials based on how we changed our phone systems. So I can have one head creating the same volume that maybe 3 or 4 heads did in the past.
So are they, you got your sales team doing hundreds of dials. So, I mean, obviously they have their leads that they're working, right now, hot leads, right? That's not part of that. Is that just follow up on just, cold
It's all
leads?
follow-ups.
Okay.
So we have about, maybe 18,000 leads in the system. So our average lead is in the system for 120 days before it becomes a ratified contract. And so that just goes to show you that if you guys are only focusing on your new leads, you're missing out on millions of dollars on follow-up.
Right. So as far as the sales team goes, they're now working less fresh leads and they're able to devote the proper time to each of those leads instead of feeling like, dang, I got to hit 30 of these leads. Like I got to just get through them really quick. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. And one thing that helped with that is we have a position on our team that we call a follow-up specialist. So they're working a lot of those colder leads, warming them up, and then passing them off to our closer. So one thing that we asked ourselves is how can I have the people on my team that are really good at closing opportunities, how can I fill their day with just closing opportunities or working those types of people? So with that mindset, we were able to have them focus on the warm people, the hotter opportunities, the people that are worth their time and energy so that they don't have to focus on prospecting anymore, and then have someone else who's more of an entry-level type person get used to the lingo, get used to the terminology in real estate. They don't have to be a real estate expert, but they just have to be able to get on the phone, have a conversation, see if they want to sell and if we're going to be a good fit, and then pass it off to our closer to let them do what they're really good at.
Yeah, that was the one thing that changed our business as well. When I first started, once again, it goes back to I didn't know what I was doing with sales wise. I was just like, close your deals. Like you talk to a guy, close them. I don't get it. Stupid. And so even with going on appointments, right? Like these guys are in the office. They're like, I'm like, go on the appointment, go close them. Dumb, really dumb. Now, we have our people who, like you said, they're entry level more, they're learning, but their job's to follow up or, set an appointment for a closer, like you said. We have a guy who strictly only goes on appointments. That's all his job is. Just go close. I don't want you following up. I don't want you dialing. Just go on appointments and close people. And then we got our more experienced guys who can close over the phone while also follow up just because, there's only so many closing opportunities a day. But yeah, it's for sure changed up. It's following up is a totally different skill set than closing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, with those 5 people, like, is that 5 closers or that's 5 of just everything total?
So we have 2 primary closers.
Okay.
So the way that we bring in salespeople into the company is they come in as what we call a follow-up specialist. They get a $2,000 base and 3% of any deal that they pass off to a closer that once the deal closes.
Right.
Once that person closes 10 deals at the company, they go from 3 to 5% so that they have something to move up to.
Mm-hmm.
From there, we train them into being a closer. And after you're with the company for so long, your base goes up by 1,000. So you have 4 tiers of moving up in our sales team. Mm. And I think that one thing we were missing a long time ago is I think a lot of people in the industry, they bring these salespeople on and they're like, here's a script, go close.
Yeah.
And there's not really like a career aspect to it. Like these, naturally, people want to grow with a company.
Right.
So you need to show them a path in your interview process of here's the 4 ways you get to move up in the company and continue to get paid more money.
Right.
So that's how we structured it, and it's worked out really well. We have 2 primary closers and 1 that floats between a follow-up specialist and a closer, and they've been with us all for over a year. They're all making 6 figures with us, which is something I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
And then the follow-up specialist that comes in, they see their path and they're getting naturally trained down by the closers.
Right.
So I think that something to take away is, like, if you have someone that's really good at closing and you have them doing things like following up and all that, you're eventually going to lose them because they know their skill set. And as long as they're focusing on what they're good at, then you'll close a lot more deals.
Right. For sure. So what would you say is the majority of your deals now? Like, are they off market doing, these marketing with their closers? I mean, we talked about last year MLS a little bit. Like, what does it look like now?
It's pretty much all off market except for maybe 1 a month we'll buy, or 2 a month we'll buy off another wholesaler.
Yeah. Yeah. We're the same way. It's weird how we've changed. When I first started, it was strictly just buying from MLS and wholesalers.
Mm-hmm.
I bought my first 80 deals that way. And then 2018, I said, let's start marketing. Like I said, no idea what I'm doing. I'm just like we're literally hand dialing people from a list. Yep. With our cell phones, and we got deals. And me just saying, go close them. Like, it's that simple.
Yeah.
And we got deals. But not many people from that era made it past that because of my fault, really. And, we figured things out. We got a lot of deals and figured out the systems and processes as we went along. And it's been cool. But I guess what I would say is for us, it was always MLS and wholesalers. Then there's like the shift where it's like, 50% wholesalers, 25% marketing, 25% MLS. And now it's literally become like 80 to 90% off market, maybe 10% wholesalers, because, right now wholesalers just know they can freaking get an arm and a leg for a deal. And, we still buy when it makes sense, but it's not like it used to be.
Yep. And I think that, unfortunately, people competing against us, we've been doing this so long now that, when you buy off a wholesaler, we have an advantage that we do have our own cash if we need to use it, or we can use private money. We have our own crews, we have a license. So, that's what people are competing against in the market is folks that have all those aspects to them. But yeah, it's the wholesalers in our market, they're selling things for prices that I don't even know who's buying them at these prices.
Yeah, you better live in that house if you're going to pay that much for it, for sure. So you touched on private money there, which is something that I've also, done a lot of, and I'm about to do a ton of it for the fund that we're launching, Pineda Capital. If you guys haven't heard about it, we'll link to it down below if you're an accredited investor. But for raising money on flips and stuff like that, what are you guys doing?
So we pay out our private lenders 12% annualized interest with a minimum payout of 3% because we typically turn our flips so fast that it'll be less than 3 months.
So it's kind of a headache for them. And
so if we do at least 3%, our goal is that we're flipping their money so much that maybe they're making more like 15, 16% for the year.
What's like your average buy price out there?
I'd probably say around
100 to 150.
1 to 150.
Okay, got it.
So it's a lot lower.
Yeah.
What's your guys' average in Vegas?
Man, at this point, I don't even 250 maybe. Yeah.
Yep. So we raise money for all of our flips for the most part. We'll only use our own money if it's something that like make or breaks the deal.
Right.
So if private money is going to cost me $10,000 on the deal, but without it and using my own cash, I'll use my own cash just to make it a deal.
Right. You got to put it in Bitcoin instead.
Someone needs to teach me about Bitcoin because I know nothing about it. So.
Yeah. I still to this day don't use my own cash no matter what. I'm like always because and the way my mind works is I have so many like other things I want to do. I'm like, oh yeah, everyone will give me money for real estate. That's a given. But nobody's giving me money for Bitcoin. Like, so if I want to buy a lot of Bitcoin, I have to do it. You know, if I want to buy $100,000 in studio equipment, nobody's going to lend me the money. I got to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Somebody might, but I'm not going to give up like equity in my social media or something to go buy equipment.
Yeah.
You know? So I try to use my cash for like things outside of real estate or potentially rentals or things. But flips, I'm still always like, you know what? If I can't buy it, factoring in the private money's cost, I'm just not buying it.
Yeah. Yep. I actually, do you know Austin Rutherford?
Yeah.
So he's a good friend of ours in Columbus. I should have asked for permission for this. But I went to him because he's been crushing it on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I was like, how about if I just, maybe lend you some money and, maybe we'll split the interest.
You don't even, he doesn't know what he's doing. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, just go buy it. Like, neither of us know what we're doing.
That's funny.
Yeah. No, Bitcoin's been crazy. I bought in, what did I buy? I bought in like $500,000 in January and February, and it's worth about $1 million.
That's crazy.
It is crazy, and I don't even know what I'm doing.
Do you have anxiety going to bed at night over that?
No. We had, dude, it's so funny. So our last podcast guest, I can't remember who it was. Do you guys remember in the back? Who was it? Humphrey. Yeah, we had Humphrey on. Same deal. He was like, you are one risky mother effer. Like, how are you willing to do that? I was like, I don't know, dude. Like, it's just, I think I'm a gambler at heart. Like, I just love gambling. I'm from Vegas. But if I believe in something, I don't have like an in-between. It's like, we're going to really do this or we're not doing it at all.
Yep.
That's kind of how I feel.
Yeah, I would say I would describe myself a little that way. Actually, he went to a gamble last night. And I was like, you're only taking $200.
Yeah, like, see, I wouldn't even do it. I'd be like, what am I doing here? Like, this is not, yeah, I have to go bet some big money to do something. Or, like I said, with just any opportunity or company, I'm like, can this be like a really big deal or not? If it's not, oh well, I'm not doing it.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's funny. But yeah, I guess if you're looking at buying Bitcoin, I would have the amount that most people say is have anywhere from 5 to 10% of your portfolio in Bitcoin. Not as like you're just expecting to make all this money, but as protection in case it is like going to be legit.
I still don't even understand what Bitcoin is.
You don't need to. Just go on Coinbase and just buy, allocate 5% of your net worth to Bitcoin just to be safe.
I'll have to do that.
Yeah. So let's jump into another segment. We actually started this segment randomly with Christina Kraus, who was at Tim's event where we met. And it's called Social Snapshot. So on Social Snapshot, we pretty much just talk social media since it's what a lot of people who come here want to talk about anyways. And, you got a pretty good sized following. So there's really no agenda for Social Snapshot because it's so new. It's either you asking me questions or me asking you, just about how it's impacted your business and, whatever. So,
yeah, social media started for me when I was in corporate space, and it's kind of funny looking back. There was the vice president of marketing of Owens Corning Global had like 5 followers, and I walked up to him, and his desk ended up moving closer to mine and on our floor, and I was like, "How are you the vice president of marketing and you have 5 followers?" And he was like, "That's a good point." And I said, "How about this? Why don't we make a bet?" And it was kind of a joke at the time, but I'm like, "How about we make a bet that whoever has the most followers between now and 3 months out," and I forget what the winner would get. And I took it pretty serious. And so I just started sharing my journey then. I think I was like 25 years old, and it was, about sports, and I was literally writing articles on LinkedIn trying to figure it out. And it was, my grammar was horrible and all this stuff. And then next thing you know, 3 months later, I had an article go viral, and it shared to 1,000 people across all these countries. And I had executives from all over the world commenting on it. And that day I remember like the power of social media.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I've just kept sharing the journey. And the beauty about it was I had nothing to, ask for about 5 years. And then as we grew our following, especially now flipping houses, you naturally people want to learn.
Right.
And so about a year and a half ago, I honestly got bombarded by people every day. And I started bawling one day and was like, I'm giving all these people, like, picking up the phone and calling them or they're calling me and I'm giving them my time for free.
Yeah.
And so I just said, I can't do this anymore. I'm either staying off social media or I'm going to create something to make money off this and give back. And so that's when we started education. And I literally went live one day on Facebook and was like, look, you all are asking me the same questions. So if I create this, it'll be 4 weeks. Comment below. I'm only going to charge $1,000, but I need to value my own time. And I was just very authentic about it. And like 89 people bought it.
Crazy.
And I remember just thinking, well, I guess what I do know is valuable. So from there, it's been game over ever since. So
yeah. Yeah, education's definitely the easiest way to, monetize social media. But the way I got into education was very similar. It was back in 2018. I had so many people asking me, how do you flip a house? Like, how are you doing it? But I didn't even think about it from like the real money perspective. I was like, I'm just going to write a book about it. And so I wrote a book, which, by the way, anyone listening, books are not like profitable in themselves. It's what the book leads to that's profitable. But anyways, not knowing what I was doing, I actually wrote Flip Your Future by myself, no ghostwriter or anything. I'll never do that again. But I like how it turned out. It's sold a lot of copies, but really the only reason I made it was because I did not want to answer it anymore. I was like, hey, you want to learn? Here's the book. And that's it. There was no like course. There was nothing. And then more people still, even with the book, they're like, okay, but I still have can you go in depth? I was like, all right, I'm going to build out a course now. So I built out a course, and, even the course, it's not like I was pushing it or anything back then. I push education way harder now. You guys who follow me know that. But, then it became, dude, we want coaching. Because I was like, I don't want to coach. I just want to do this. And so like it was probably a year after I started doing coaching. And it's just been this constant evolution of basically what you said with listening to your audience and what they want. Sales again, right? Listen. And I just kept listening to what these people wanted. And they're like, we want workshops. We want mentorship. We want accountability coaches. And so I started incorporating all these things. And, it's very successful for everyone. It's changing people's lives. It's making a lot of money. I enjoy doing it. I do enjoy teaching. It's just I didn't enjoy trying to figure out what the best way to do it was.
So
but now that
did you get a mentor for that, or do you just figure it out?
I winged it. Yeah. I don't know. I always wing everything.
Yep. Same here.
Yeah.
This is my first year where I'm like, I should probably get a mentor for this because I'm just running in circles trying to figure out how to continue to build this.
Yeah. For me now, I know a lot of other educators and stuff. And so I will pick their brain, and we've talked off camera about it and stuff. So I think that's my form of mentorship now. It's just other peers. So that's cool. Like a big one that I'm getting now is so many people are DMing me about social media. They're like, man, I want to build a following so I can, whether they want to sell education or they want to just get more leads for their business, right? Especially realtors. You guys saw me yelling at my realtors before this. They're like, I'm like, guys, this is the easiest way to make money as a realtor. Like, it's not even close. Just post XYZ. You'll be a six-figure earner. No doubt about it.
Yep.
And that's what I'm getting not the most. It seems like me the most, but like these high-income realtors and, attorneys even, mortgage brokers who are like, show us how you did it. Like, we'll pay you anything. Seriously, that's where they're at.
That's awesome.
Because they know not many people are teaching it right now. Not many people have figured out how to run a business and go hard at social media too. So we're trying to build out some stuff for that because it's once again listening to the demand. It's like people want it. So I don't know if it's going to be a mastermind or a workshop or whatever. I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, we're in the same boat. We just recently hired a marketing person, and we had a video person for a little while, but wasn't as talented in, putting our voice out there. So I mean, that's definitely a challenge. If you run a multi-million-dollar business and you want to go blow up social media, they are two separate companies. I mean, social media, if you really want to take it to another level, is you got to build a team around you.
Yeah.
So I would say that's the phase that we're in right now. And honestly, I just recently became a mother, and I'm personally in this phase where it's like, do I want to blow up even more than what I am, or do I want to see my kid and be left alone a little bit because we already make a lot of money?
Yeah.
So I've been going through that phase of my life. If I didn't have a child right now, I'd probably have like a team of 10 backing me because I just am all in on it.
Right.
But I mean, the more, you put yourself out there, obviously, the more people, the more things that they want. So I'm just really balancing that right now with my life.
Right. That's the hardest part for any business, like balance. You guys were telling me a story earlier, like you guys almost broke up over not having proper balance. You want to touch on that? You see, I asked these strategic. I'm a sales guy who digs into pain. I'm like, tell me about how that felt.
So this was a while ago when we were engaged, but so he was still working for Turner Construction as a project manager, and I had started the flipping business. I knew nothing about managing construction, so thankfully my fiance at the time, now husband, did know a lot about construction. So he handled all the rehabs, and what he had to do was come home at 5, 6 o'clock and then manage all these rehabs till 2, 3 in the morning. And I just felt like I didn't have a relationship anymore. I mean, we barely saw each other, and I just threw my hands up one day and was like, this is done. I threw my ring at him, stomped out of the house, drove 2 hours to my parents. I was very dramatic.
Yeah.
And I remember, my parents are entrepreneurs. They own a few companies, and he was my basketball coach growing up. And so he got out his little clipboard with the court, and he goes, let's put this all out here. And he's like, you just made $100,000 last month. So like, why does Josh still work at his job? And I said, well, I need health insurance.
By the way, I was making $60,000 a year, and we just made $100,000 in 1 month. So.
Yeah. So I was like, well, I need health insurance. And my dad's like, how much is health insurance? Like, I have no idea. Like, I've never looked it up. And he's like, honey, it's only like $500. And I go, really? Like, that's crazy. And so I literally ran to my car, drove back to Columbus, and said, we're getting married and you're quitting your job tomorrow morning at 8. And he literally walked in that morning, quit, and it's been history ever since.
So, but the sad thing is we're all programmed that way, right? Health insurance, like this is the most important thing, even though the math just doesn't add up there in the scenario I told you. And it's just
society, man.
Yeah.
They brainwash you into a bunch of things, man, when you really think about it. That's funny, man. I'll tell you, a big part of things I talk about on social media is like balance, right? Like I like to show my family and, work and all this, because people always ask me like, how do you have all these companies and create all this content? And I still see you posting about your family doing this stuff. And I don't work weekends. I don't work after 5. Like, how the heck do you do it? And I think it just comes down to setting boundaries. If you think it's acceptable to come home at 2 a.m., which you both did until it wasn't, then, that's what people are going to do. And I guess just for me, like my wife and I have decided that, hey, I need to leave the office at 5 p.m. It just is what it is. And if I want to build more businesses and make more money, I got to figure out how to fit it into this time block. That's it. And it's just, basically that's the game. It's like a sports game. You get 9 innings to do it. Take your best shot during those. Actually, the 9 innings isn't good because a game could be freaking 10 hours long in baseball. But you got your 60 minutes in the football game, So I think boundaries are really important for entrepreneurs because we'll work nonstop. I don't know about you guys.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to put guardrails in place. And I think sometimes people overcomplicate simple decisions. And it's just like, whether it's your significant other or friends or whatever it is, if they're important, make the decision and just work your life around it. And I think that was obviously hard. And I think it's hard for anyone who just starts their first company because it is what it is. I mean, you do need to grind it out in the beginning. But you need to really build it around your life. And not to say every day is perfect and we're home by 6 o'clock, but and you got to put systems in place in your own home life. I know you're at Tim's, but I'm a big advocate of people systemizing their home life before their business life. Because at the end of the day, I know how to make money and Josh knows how to make money and you know how to make money. So if I can remove everything from my life that doesn't make me money, then I'm going to do it. So I don't want to pick up my dog's poop. I don't want to clean my house. not that I don't want to watch my kid, but I have a nanny. I've got someone who grocery shops, all these things. So that way my time is very present with my family. And when I'm at work, all I'm focused on is revenue income producing tasks. So
Yeah, no, I totally agree. We've made that switch as well. And I mean, the other part of it too is like, there are people who would love to have that job because they're easy task. It provides an opportunity, and so it's good all the way around. I don't want to do it. Somebody else does, and it's a win-win.
Yep.
So
sure.
I think that's awesome. I'd love to get your guys' thoughts on money in general. Like, a lot of people, I guess since we're talking about boundaries and time management and stuff, like I see the ones who work so hard and so long, it's either they just don't even realize that they're doing it, or like they're really consumed about making money for whatever reason. Like they're like, no, I gotta, whatever it is, make this money. How do you guys feel about it at this point in your life, going from, now you do have money, like what causes you to want to grow and continue to grow, but not sacrifice that family time and stuff?
I think if you had asked me that question a few years ago, before I had a kid, I was very driven. I was like, there's no cap on the amount of money I want to make.
Right.
And not that there is a cap, but there's a level of happiness and like satisfaction that I have being with my family now. And ultimately, like the end all be all goal is to be a private lender for us. Like, whenever that day happens, I remember I don't know if you know Patrick Precourt, he's one of my mentors this year, and he's my mindset or my peak performance coach. And I was like, here's how much money I want to have in the bank. All I want to do is private lend it. This is how much money I want to make a month. And then all I'm doing is being a mom. Like,
what are those numbers?
I wanted to have 5 to 10 million.
Okay.
And I said I have to make a minimum of 50,000 a month, which right now
like cash flow and stuff.
Just like without doing anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Whether it's a business or rental,
Yeah.
like as long as you're not involved.
As long as I'm not involved.
Right.
And so we went into the year making this goal, and I was like, oh, he goes, how long do you think that'll take you? I'm like, I don't know, 3 to 5 years. And now we're going to hit it in a year. So he's like, you really need to start adjusting your mindset, because you're capable of doing a lot of things without you being involved if you really just start to replace yourself in all the companies that you're growing.
Right.
And so my mindset's been shifting recently, that it's not about putting a cap on the money. It's about building it to be around my lifestyle.
Right.
And so do I have a specific amount I want to make? So I'm making this minimum amount. Yeah. But ultimately what's really started driving me now is just my audience, like to see how many lives and how many people come to me and say, like, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have done this, or if it wasn't for this, I wouldn't have done this. It's just like, I can't stop. Like, and I want my child to see that, right? I want my child to see that I have an impact on the world like that. And I'll build it around what makes sense for my family. And, 3 years ago, I probably would have kept doing it, grinding it till midnight every night, but it's just not priority now.
Right. I'm with you.
But yeah, I mean, end all be all goal is that we create companies that just feed into being private lenders. And like our education business, we private lend every dollar of it out. We don't use it for our lifestyle or anything. And that's just where we want to head. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I like to ask that question to people that obviously are doing well, and like what's their motivation, and is there a goal that they want to hit? Because I think when people are like just getting started trying to make money and get their first whatever big payday or breakthrough, they always have like this financial freedom number. They're like, okay, if I can make $100,000 a year, like I'll be good. And they get there and they're like, nah, this ain't nothing. They're like, okay, if I can make 250, $1 million, whatever. Or they say, if I could get 20,000 a month passive income, like that would be it, because that'll be the best lifestyle ever. And I've just found for me, I've never even been motivated by like a number of like, okay, if I make this amount of money a year, I'm good. Or if I have this amount of passive income, I'm good. Because number one, like I don't want to quit working.
Yep.
Like I just freaking love it. Even with my like honestly, I enjoy the challenge of trying to like be really great at business and social media, but also be a great dad and a great husband. Because like if I just quit doing all the other stuff, it'd be easy to be like just one. Mm-hmm. I enjoy challenges, I think. And it's just, I think money and followers and other stuff is just the way you count how well you're doing. you know, with the KPIs and stuff. So
I don't know if you're religious at all, but when we wrote our first big check to our church last year, that was motivating. Like to be able to wake up every day knowing how much money that we can donate now is like, you know, 5 years ago you might have flexed doing something else, but that's a flex for me. And you know, now my list of, you know, things I got to pay for my future is, you know, private schools and this and that. And those weren't things I was thinking about back then. So I'm sure if you ask me in 3 more years that my answer will change. But honestly, every 90 days, God put something in front of us that I never knew was going to even happen. I didn't even have a thought that it was going to be an opportunity. And just the more we've given back to our audience, the more opportunities come at us. And we've just been taking it day at a time with all that. And then from there, it's just about building it around, does it stay within our guardrails or not?
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, I talk about being a Christian all the time on this podcast. And we actually got a video coming out here soon. By the time this launches, it will have already come out. So we'll link to it down below. But it was a video about, am I spending too much money as a Christian? Because this is something that I've always thought about. Is like, man, you know, if I'm making all this money, like at what point am I spending too much, you know, and being too worldly and not giving enough of it away? And it's a good podcast for those of you listening. You should check it out. But to your point of donating and giving back, that's really my big picture for it too. We're actually starting a nonprofit right now. I paid the lawyer and everything, and it takes like 6 months or something to get through. So I haven't really talked about it. I'm just waiting for the process to play out. But I have like 2 big picture ideas that I feel that God put on my heart. One is just, you know, general outreach and stuff locally, you know, missions worldwide. You know, kids, we've got a passion for kids. My wife was a teacher for 8th graders. I coached high school baseball for a couple of years when I got done playing. So I really like impacting the kids. So that's cool. But then I had this other vision of creating this Christian entrepreneurs organization, mainly, and by the way, that's CEO. Those are the initials. So I thought it was kind of cool.
That's awesome.
Somebody else already took the domain. But anyways, you guys heard it here first. CEO would be a really cool organization because as Christian, or think about this, as business people, we have like a ton of masterminds. We have a ton of, you know, all these things, right? I don't see it in the Christian world. And there's a lot of issues that we deal with. Like I said, am I spending too much money? Am I getting too caught up in my business? Am I not devoting enough time to my family? Am I not, you know, serving enough? And these are all things that run through my mind all the time. And the thing I love is with content is every time I go to an event or something like that, you know, we were at Tim's event. I have always multiple people come up to me and they're like, dude, I love that you share your faith. And, you know, and then there's some type of advice given. And there's always this need I see where there's just no organization out there that really does it. And so I'm like, man, I'm creating these businesses, like the structure of education. You know, okay, we have courses, we have accountability coaches, we have Zooms, we have masterminds. Why couldn't I just do that in the nonprofit sector for, you know, these entrepreneurs? And I think that's something that I'm going to end up doing, like as a very big passion project. At whatever point I just feel like God saying, hey, focus on this one.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up because like we go to a church that obviously we go to it because we relate to them. But I had went to the pastor and I'm like, I'm really struggling because I don't fit into these small groups. Like I don't relate to them. I don't have the same daily struggles or daily questions. Like I'm stressed out about, you know, employees or money or this or that. And like a lot of people can't relate to that.
Right.
So I have literally been begging him for over a year now and emailing them and everything. And it's like, how does this, it's one of the biggest churches in the country. How do they not have a group for just entrepreneurs in the city? Because then we can relate to each other. And ultimately, it'll probably be more beneficial for the church because you're going to help impact our lives. Obviously, we'll be able to give back more. And I have still not been able to get it. And it's been a struggle. So we created a small group with me and some entrepreneurs. We'd get up at 5 a.m. last year, but that fizzled off. And I totally agree. I think it's something that's missing both locally and nationally, whether it's in the industry or just, it doesn't matter what industry you're in as long as you're an entrepreneur, but it is probably one of the biggest missing links, I think, out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And trust me, I've heard that, not that exact story, but a version of that story with many entrepreneurs and business people. So yeah, it's something that God's definitely put on my heart. It's just a matter of timing and when it's going to happen. It's cool. We do Bible studies here at the office every Tuesday. Nice. With my employees, with other entrepreneurs and stuff. So we enjoy doing that. But yeah, I want to do this on a big scale, and I think it's part of the reason why God put me on this path of influence, because the moment, with influence, you're able to launch, a lot of stuff very easily. And so I think it could spread like wildfire.
For sure. Yeah. I love that idea. It's definitely missing. And I, even like when I talk to my students and you hear the struggles they're going through in the beginning of running a company, you just have to turn on your faith. I mean, I can't remember how many times I wanted to give up, and I'm glad I didn't, but faith is really hard to keep when you're like really struggling. So
no doubt. It's funny. Like faith is easy when you can see it, but that's not even faith. Like faith is, belief in what's unseen. And it's like when I look at Christians in general, a lot of times when things are going good, we're like, oh yeah, I got this, we're good. And then it's when only things are bad, you're like, all right, God, I need help. What should I do? And then, it shouldn't be that way, right? It should always be consistent, ideally, which is, we know is not the case. But yeah, it's definitely got me to this point. And that's why, I guess when you asked me the question about, do you ever have anxiety about like the Bitcoin and stuff? I'm like, I really don't care. Like, it's all house money to me.
You're like Josh.
Yeah.
I naturally get anxiety over those things, and he's like, he's probably the most disciplined Christian ever, and he's like, God has a plan.
Yeah.
Whatever happens,
I
happens.
think what's cool though, and I'm sure you've probably experienced or had similar experiences through being an athlete and the trials and stuff that we had from that, and then into the business world too. Mm-hmm. There are times it's not always easy, right? By no means is it always easy. And when you're starting out, it's normally harder than ever. But those breakthroughs that you have, it's miracles. Really, there's no other way to put it. And I think that we've had an opportunity to see God's work, in our lives and other people's lives that we're involved in. And it's a beautiful thing to see, right? And when you experience that, it's hard to not have that belief. You know what I mean? And it just solidifies my faith more and more every time, I continue to see these types of miracles. So
yeah, no, I'm with you. The more obedient you are, it keeps going on this path, and it's just like this reinforcing path. It was like, all right, I was obedient, and then a door was opened. It's like now every time I'm just like, I don't know how it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. It'll be fine.
Right.
And that's how I view everything at this point. And every, new endeavor is always faith. I say this all the time. Like when I decided to go really hard at social media last year, I had no YouTube follower, no TikTok, none of this stuff, but I felt like God calling me to do it. And it's led to some crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. And, anything you're trying to break through, you've never done before. So if you don't have faith or, a lack of faith, whether it's in God or whether it's just in general yourself, you're not going to be able to do what you've never done. There's too many people that want certainty, which does not exist in anything. Yeah. I could lose all this tomorrow, and it is what it is. I'll rebuild. Right. So, well, cool. That was awesome. I'm glad we talked about that. I always love talking about faith, and I think a lot of our listeners enjoy it too. That's why they follow. So, but anyways, I do really appreciate having you guys on. I think you guys shared some great stuff about running the business and social media and balancing family life and everything like that. So where can all the followers find you?
So I get asked that a lot, and we finally have a website.
Here we go.
It's got one page to it for now.
2000
big moves.
It's 2021. Here we go.
People are like, how did you grow a 7-figure education company with no website, no funnel, no sales, no marketing dollars? And I'm like, it's just because I gave my audience what they wanted.
Yep.
But it's tiffanyandjoshhigh.com, and we have another website coming out here pretty soon. And you can find out information on our courses and all that kind of jazz on there as well.
Cool. What about social media-wise? Where can they follow you?
Tiffany High Official is my Instagram, and then Tiffany High is my Facebook. I don't have TikTok. I know I need to get TikTok. But you need to follow Josh on TikTok because he's starting to put out some funny TikToks.
Oh, here we go.
So it's Josh High Official on Instagram and Josh High on Facebook. And I do have TikTok. I don't even know the handle, to be honest. It's a new thing, right? I'm trying.
It's funny.
Working
One
on
day
being consistent
I came
here,
home
so.
from work and I look at my Facebook and I'm like, honey, when did you get TikTok? And it was the funniest video ever. And I go, you're so funny. I didn't know this. And so literally within a week, he creates all these TikToks. And I go to an industry event and he got so busy, he stopped for a while. And everyone's like, where's Josh's funny TikToks? They're so funny. And I'm like, you can't stop doing TikTok.
Yep.
But the best part was, I go, how are all of you following him? Because he only has 25 followers on there. But he shares it onto Instagram and Facebook.
So they don't follow
so
him. They just see it there.
they
Right,
see it on
right.
the Instagram and Facebook. So it's pretty funny. But
Dude, that's super funny. I love it. So cool. We'll link to all that down below. So guys, I appreciate you for listening to this podcast. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you give it a like. Make sure you go follow them and check out their stuff in the description below. And I just want to thank you guys again.
thanks for
So,
having us
Yeah,
on.
thanks, Ryan. Really
Yeah.
appreciate it, man.
No problem. All right, guys. Take care. Thanks for watching The Ryan Pineda Show. If you want to work with me, head over to ryanpineda.com. You can find my courses, coaching programs, and upcoming events. We also have free resources you can download, so head over to ryanpineda.com.